Just everything, despite what everyone thinks about me, being lazy, I'm actually a workaholic. All I do is work for Rick part of the time, but I pretty much work 7 days a week.
Pawn Stars wasn't as real as it looked, and what's being revealed now is changing how fans see the show. For years, Pawn Stars built its success on seemingly random deals and spontaneous moments. But behind the scenes, much of it was carefully controlled, and even the shop viewers saw wasn't exactly what it appeared to be. Now, new revelations from Chumlee are exposing a very different reality. So what was actually real on Pawn Stars, and how much of it was staged? Join us as we uncover what Chumlee revealed about Pawn Stars. 5 years before the cameras arrived. Before there was a television show, there was a kid in Henderson, Nevada, named Austin Lee Russell and his childhood friend Corey Harrison. Austin Lee Russell grew up in Henderson, and at around age 12, his face and chin earned him a nickname from the father of one of his friends, who remarked that he looked like Chumlee, the walrus from the animated television series Tennessee Tuxedo. The name stuck and followed him through childhood, into adolescence, and eventually onto cable television, where it became one of the most recognizable single names in reality TV history. Nobody called him Austin. Everybody called him Chumlee, or just Chum. His friendship with Corey Harrison was the actual origin story of everything that followed. Corey's father was Rick Harrison, and Rick's father was Richard Harrison, who opened the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop in Las Vegas in 1989 with $5,000. The shop started as a 24-hour family operation. Chumlee was around from the beginning, not as an employee but as a fixture, the perpetual presence of a kid who was always at his friend's house, who grew up knowing the Harrison family like his own, who Rick Harrison has described as someone he took care of on and off from around age 13. Chumlee began working at the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop at age 21. 5 years before filming of the first season of Pawn Stars began in July 2009. His actual job duties at the shop were real and ongoing. Behind-the-counter work, testing items, loading merchandise, writing tickets for items the shop purchased. He knew how the place operated, not because producers had briefed him, but because he had been there, doing the work, for years before anyone suggested turning it into a television show. Rick Harrison spent years in the early 2000s pitching the concept of a show about the pawn shop to different networks. He reportedly pitched it to HBO at one point. Eventually, the History Channel bought it, and when the producers came to cast the show, they were looking for a fourth personality to put alongside the three Harrisons: the patriarch Old Man, his son Rick, and Rick's son Corey. There were 10 other employees at the shop who could have filled that slot. Chumlee made a decision. He told an interviewer years later that when he first thought about it, he wondered whether looking dumb on camera was the route he really wanted to go. Then he decided to just be himself, to be funny and joke with the guys the way they normally did, and not get nervous in front of the cameras. The chemistry worked in a way that nobody had planned for, and the lumpy, likable guy from Henderson, who had grown up around this family since he was a kid, became the show's biggest breakout star. By 2010, his merchandise sales were outpacing everyone else's on the show. He had formed his own company selling novelty items and arranging personal appearances, and he sold half his stake in that company to Rick Harrison for $155,000, so the shop's infrastructure could handle the order volume more efficiently. Rick Harrison has his own version of what Chumlee represented to the audience. As he told the Huffington Post, "Kids love Chumlee because he is the adult they are smarter than." Corey Harrison's version was simpler. Everybody loves an underdog. But the show that launched Chumlee's fame was not what it appeared to be, and Chumlee has been more honest about that than almost anyone else connected to the production. So if the show was built on a genuine friendship and a real family business, what exactly was the gap between what viewers saw and what was actually happening? The show that called itself reality. The single most important thing that Pawn Stars never acknowledged on air is that after the first season, it stopped filming in the actual gold and silver pawn shop. The crowds of fans that flooded the store after the show became a hit made continued filming inside the real shop impossible. People were showing up for autographs and selfies in numbers that would have shut down any legitimate business operation. The solution was a secret set on the second floor of the same building, a smaller replica of the real store, inaccessible to the public, designed to look like what audiences were already familiar with from Season 1 and used exclusively for filming. The replica had a fake front door that was opaque instead of clear, so that viewers could not see that it did not open out onto the street. The layout was designed to create the visual impression of continuity with the real shop. The real shop continued operating as a pawn business downstairs, while the television version of the same shop was being filmed on the floor above. This means that every episode of Pawn Stars filmed after the first season was filmed on a set. Not a set in the Hollywood sense, with constructed walls and artificial lighting and no connection to the actual business, but a set nonetheless. A controlled environment that looked like the real thing and was never identified to viewers as anything other than the real thing. The customers who appeared to walk in off the street were cast. Producers put out notices through entertainment industry channels before tapings, recruiting people to audition for the role of a customer coming in with an item to sell. The dates of tapings were closely guarded secrets. The audition process involved evaluating both the item the person was bringing and whether the person themselves was camera-ready enough to work on television. Executive producer Brent Montgomery described the production in an interview with Odyssey as a blend of fed information and improvisation. There were crew members he called scripters, whose job was to guide the characters, both the regular cast and the sellers, about what to say and to shape the narrative flow of conversations in real time. Montgomery never told the show's stars how to price an item, but he encouraged them to buy things even when they might not have done so off-camera. As he explained it, a show where they never bought anything would not work well. The prices were negotiated in advance. The back-and-forth haggling that viewers found so entertaining, the long pauses, the rejected offers, the final handshakes, were all staged around an outcome that had already been determined before the cameras started rolling. The amount of time it actually took to film one of those transactions was often close to an hour, which was then edited down to a few minutes of airtime. The cast members were briefed on the items before each segment, which explains one of the most persistent viewer questions about the show. How does Rick Harrison know the historical significance of every single item that walks through the door? He does not. He was told about it. The historical facts presented during appraisal segments were real, but they were fed to the cast in preparation for filming, not produced spontaneously in front of customers by years of accumulated knowledge alone. The background shoppers visible in episodes were also not random customers who happened to be in the store during filming. Only approved extras and sellers were allowed inside during production sessions, and extras were directed specifically how to behave. One person who described being selected as a background extra reported being told to pretend to look at and point at items and to remain very quiet. They said the director told both Rick and the person with the item exactly what to say. Old Man Harrison, who died in 2018, was more open about this than his son Rick has typically been. In an interview with the Las Vegas Sun, he said plainly that some of it is real and some of it is phony, noting that the shop would not let genuinely priceless items walk out the door under any circumstances. Chumley's version of this is more honest than most. He said early in the show's run that he wondered whether looking dumb on camera was really the route he wanted to take. He knew from the beginning that the version of himself on screen was a character. The version that stumbled, that bought things impulsively, that served as the butt of jokes from the people who were supposedly smarter than him, was a television construction. And it worked. It worked so well that Chumlee became more merchandise famous than anyone else on the show. If the production was this carefully engineered from the beginning, what was the character that Chumlee was playing? And how different was that character from the person actually standing behind the counter? The village idiot who was never actually an idiot. The label applied to Chumlee on Pawn Stars was repeated so often and so openly that it became something close to official. He has been described, both on the show and in media coverage of it, as the village idiot. The reality of who Chumlee actually is runs in a significantly different direction. Chumlee has genuine expertise in pinball machines, sneakers, video games, sports memorabilia, and toys.
It's an Evel Knievel pinball machine from the 70s.
I mean, there's not many dudes out there that wore a cape that you would still call a badass.
You're right.
In a second season episode called Pinball Wizards, he appraised a pinball machine with detailed accuracy that clearly surprised Corey Harrison, who had grown up around the same shop and had no idea the depth of knowledge Chumlee had in that specific area. The show occasionally let moments like that through. More often, it did not. By 2013, Chumlee had collected more than 200 pairs of shoes. He owned a Rolls-Royce Phantom, a Maserati Gran Turismo, a Cadillac Escalade, a Range Rover, and a customized 1964 Impala SS with hydraulic lifts. He was a fan of Pokémon trading cards, skateboarding, punk rock, and rap music. He launched his own candy store in 2017, Chumlee's Candy on the Boulevard, across the street from the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop in Las Vegas. He released a Nintendo Entertainment System homebrew video game in 2020 called Chumlee's Adventure. The quest for Pinky, which found an audience among collectors of the specific niche format. He has attended Pokémon World Championships and Comic-Con and WWE events, not as a celebrity making an appearance, but as a fan pursuing genuine interests. In 2010, he appeared in the American TV series iCarly, alongside Rick and Corey Harrison, playing himself. He has described John Bon Jovi personally inviting him and the Pawn Stars crew to a show after Bon Jovi's kids wanted photos with them, and he received front-row seats. He served as a Grand Marshal for the History 300 NASCAR race at Charlotte Motor Speedway in 2012. The man who was written on television as the slowest person in the room ran a candy business, a merchandise company, a collectibles operation, and maintained a public presence sophisticated enough to sustain a fan base that outlasted his legal problems, his weight battles, and his years of minimal social media activity. Chumlee has been unusually open about the performance. He acknowledged that the show required him to look dumb, and that he decided early on to accept this as the price of the platform. He said he honestly is not the dumbest guy, though he admits the Harrisons are book smarter than him. He framed being underestimated as a structural feature of his television character rather than an accurate description of who he was. Fans on Reddit and in other online communities have long noted that the show regularly contradicts its own premise. It portrays Chumlee as incompetent, then occasionally shows him being the most knowledgeable person in the room about a specific category of item, creating a dissonance that makes the Village Idiot label feel more like a production decision than an honest characterization. The show never resolved this tension because resolving it would have required either giving Chumlee a more accurate portrayal or admitting that the character had been constructed for entertainment purposes. If the character was constructed, and the show itself was more staged than it presented itself to be, what happened when the private life of the man playing that character crossed over into the public in the most damaging way possible: run-ins with the law. On March 9, 2016, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police responded to Chumlee's home in southwest Las Vegas as part of an investigation into a sexual misconduct allegation. The woman who made the allegation was in the area, and detectives had obtained a search warrant. What they found when they searched the house went well beyond anything related to the original investigation. Inside the home, they found crystal methamphetamine, marijuana, Xanax, not prescribed to him, and multiple firearms. The drugs and drug paraphernalia were found in quantities that the police report described as commonly found with persons who package and sell controlled substances. The firearms were not a small collection either. When investigators opened a large floor vault in the master bedroom, they found approximately 4 ounces of marijuana and a dozen guns, including handguns, revolvers, rifles, and shotguns, some of them loaded. Of the 12 weapons, only 4 were registered to Chumlee. He was arrested and released the following day on $62,000 bond. He told police before they opened the vault that there were private things in there, and he was not initially cooperative about opening it. He also told detectives at some point during the investigation that he smokes a lot of weed, though he insisted he was not a drug dealer. Detectives also found evidence of possible cocaine use. The History Channel went quiet. The show was not in active production at the time, and the network declined to comment on the status of a star of one of its most popular programs who had just been arrested. On May 23, 2016, Chumlee was charged with 20 felony counts, including drug and weapons charges. He accepted a plea deal that reduced his culpability significantly. He pleaded guilty to 1 felony weapons charge for unlawful possession of a firearm and a gross misdemeanor of attempted drug possession. He received 3 years of probation and required counseling. No jail time. He was required to surrender all the weapons and the drugs. If he remained out of legal trouble until 2019, the felony charge would be dismissed, leaving him with only a misdemeanor conviction on his record. He cleared the probation. No further legal issues. The sexual assault allegation that had prompted the original raid was not pursued, and he was never charged in connection with it. What happened in the aftermath was not a managed decline. Chumlee kept his job. He kept his place on the show. His merchandise continued to sell. He changed his diet, overhauled his lifestyle, and eventually, after years of weight cycling that peaked at 350 pounds in January 2019, underwent gastric sleeve surgery in 2021. By October 2021, he had lost 160 pounds and has maintained that loss since. If the arrest and its aftermath represented the low point of his story, what has the period since the show ended actually looked like? And what has Chumlee been willing to say that the cameras never let him say before? The Pawn After Dark podcast. In January 2025, Rick Harrison and Chumlee launched a podcast called Pawn After Dark. It is recorded in the secret studio on the 2nd floor of the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop, the same space where the television show had been filmed for years, without anyone mentioning it on air. The podcast was conceived and developed by Tracy Whitaker, the CEO of Rick Harrison Productions and the executive producer of Pawn Stars for 11 years. It is unaffiliated with History Channel or Disney. The podcast was described by its creators as a behind-the-scenes look at their world after hours at the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop, with unfiltered conversations and unexpected surprises. The language, as Rick Harrison explained to the Las Vegas Review-Journal in coverage of the launch, is grown up, the kind you would hear around the shop off-camera. This is a notable admission in itself. After 15 years of carefully managed television production, the people at the center of the show were explicitly describing their off-camera reality as something meaningfully different from what the cameras had been capturing. What Chumlee has revealed through the podcast, in interviews surrounding it, and in the gradual social media presence he has rebuilt since the arrest, includes a picture of the show that is more honest than anything that aired during its 15-season run. He has confirmed that the village idiot was a character he played with full awareness. He has confirmed that the real version of Chumlee is an enthusiastic collector, a self-made businessman, and a person who understands the value of specific categories of items better than most of the people watching him pretend not to. Meanwhile, Corey Harrison, who was a core cast member from the show's premiere, moved to Tulum, Mexico in September 2024 and has been open about not intending to return to the show. When the new season was announced with Rick and Chumlee as the featured co-stars, Corey told the Las Vegas Review-Journal that nobody had told him anything about the development. He has started his own podcast, From Tulum. The original four-person dynamic that made Pawn Stars what it was is gone. Does any of these revelations change how you look back at your favorite Pawn Stars episodes? And do you think the new version of the show with just Rick and Chumlee can recapture what made the original work? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.